We could bleep this out, but I had a group of girls and I would lean over and say, can you bitch check my email? Can you just read this and make sure the tone is okay? And I'm getting the point across I'm trying to get without offending people.
Wow, wow, I got that wow, wow. Anything that I want, I'ma get it now. Yeah, wow, wow.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Click-Worthy Convos. I'm MD Klein here with my co-host Mo Connors, and today we are talking about one of our favorite topics, not necessarily specific to marketing, but across all industries, mentoring. What is a mentor? What makes a good mentor? There are all different types. What's the difference between mentoring and networking? Where to find mentors, and just really dig into all things mentoring. So hopefully, if you're looking for one or if you are one, you can make sure you're taking the best approach. So let's start with the difference between networking and mentoring. What is mentoring? How would you define it?
So to me, a mentor is someone who's invested in you, right? In your professional growth, in your career, in really helping you shape your career path and, help you figure out like what your goals are and then chart a path to get there. That's mentoring, where networking is a bit more like quid pro quo. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. Maybe you can be an introducer to me for certain people. Like I feel like it's a lot more transactional per se.
One of the things we talked about when we talked about the difference between networking and mentoring is like mentoring is supposed to be transformational, where networking is more transactional. So I think that's a good way to easily separate the two. And I think both are useful and necessary throughout your career. Like, not saying it's bad to have a network. I think everybody should have a network and everybody should have a handful of mentors. But there are definitely different types of mentors that you come across throughout your career, your life. We want to talk about that a little bit.
When you said transformational, it just made me think mentoring to me it's a journey, right? Like you work with mentors. Transformation's not tomorrow, we've all participated in those mentor programs and it's like, hey, it's this 6-week program, right? To me, that puts a lot of pressure on the mentor and the mentee. To truly be transformational, like I do think the mentor relationship, it grows over time and there's a lot of give and take in there for it to truly be transformational. Like if you go in expecting like, hey, I've asked this person to be my mentor, and in 4 sessions, boom, I've transformed into this new person I want to be. That's not it. Like mentoring is a commitment. And it's important for people to realize that the mentor has to put in work, but the majority of the work needs to come on the mentee side.
Absolutely. And I love that you called that out, because we default, I think, these days to instant gratification. Like we want something, we want to see a result, we want to see it fast, we want to see it now. To your point, it takes time to grow. Transformation is not overnight. It's just like, I love talking about seeds. It's like really the growth of the seed and growing over time. That's a very important point. And I'm glad you brought that up.
You do love talking about seeds. Yeah, I agree. We're, instant gratification, right? Like, I don't know, I can order from Amazon and get it by 4 p.m. Like, to me, that's awesome. I'm all about it. But I do think the reality is there's some things that require investment in time and patience. So, I mean, types of mentors, probably the easiest, lobbing it up there is the person who helps you navigate your career. And this is the person that you sit down with and say, when I grow up, I want to be a CEO. I want to be a CFO. I want to own my own agency, right? And
that's if
what
you
they
know.
look at is if you know, right? But it's somebody who's probably, I would say like 10 to 15 years ahead of where you are in your career, right? Someone who can help you kind of make those strategic career moves. If you want to own an agency one day, you're not going to go, maybe it's not a good decision for you to go and work in fraud, for instance, or something like that, right? Like they help you kind of chart those career paths to ultimately understand and reach your goals.
Yeah. With the career navigator specifically, there's 2 kind of ways, and you touched on one of them. Like, what's that next step for me in my career? How do I grow? So it could be somebody within the same field as you, or if you want to pivot, someone who can help identify what those next steps are or the things that you should consider if you're trying to pivot into a different area.
I mean, this could go across any mentor, but because this type of mentor tends to be a more seasoned professional, like definitely ahead of you in their career, has kind of tread the same waters. Like, this is a person that you go to when you have a tough situation too. I'm having these challenges with my boss. I have this project I really believe in and I can't get backing behind it, right? So other than whether or not you should take a job or something like that, like this is the person who's really helping you kind of navigate your professional world, both across like interpersonal relationships to career strategies and moves to work product. They could be somebody that you say, hey, can you look at this PowerPoint for me because I'm not sure if I'm selling it right, and that person can say, your executive summary doesn't tell me anything. It needs to be more compelling. You need to put more of the why behind it. There's a lot more of that in this career builder mentor, which I think why it's important to talk about it first.
With any mentorship, knowing what you want out of a mentor. Don't just sign up for a mentor, seek out a mentor and just say, hey, can you be my mentor? Just for the sake of having a mentor. Like, really think about your goals and what you want to achieve and how to make the most out of that relationship to not only respect their time, but also not waste your own. Like, if you don't have goals or an intent and you're just out there for the sake of saying that you got some guidance, I don't think that's necessarily the best reason to get a mentor.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the interesting part is the different types of mentors often come into what you need, right? So I think the career builder is probably your broadest mentor. Well, they can kind of touch on everything, but then there's a mentor that you get because you're looking to develop a particular skill. For me, when I was in the credit card industry, like understanding a credit card P&L was really tough. And I worked with this gentleman, Joe Vasco. He actually sat down with me and explained to me, this is how P&Ls work, sitting down so that I understood it. And so like, he was a mentor to me for a very, very specific reason, right? So he helped me sort of understand the way a P&L looks. How do I look at numbers and trace it back to a P&L? Like, there can be somebody who focuses on one specific thing as well.
It can be information gaps, like similar to what you were speaking to, more technical skills. Like if there's someone that's really good at copywriting or design or PowerPoints and presentations, public speaking, any of those things, those are really like the skill builder mentors. And you may have a specialized skill set that people don't even tap into you for, but they'll tap into like, wow, Maureen, you are really good at public speaking and owning a room. How do I, get the confidence to do stuff like that? I've had people that come to me with that. And it's interesting because I don't see myself like very outspoken, but I can be quick and punchy and kind of sell pretty quickly. So teaching skills that you may not even know that you have, that other people see in you or admire in you, is another way to seek out a mentor.
And this person doesn't need to be older than you. They can be younger than you. They just are better at something. It's kind of like how you're my mentor for my Mac and for Figma. You mentor me, you help me take screenshots, and I appreciate you for that.
I'm always here to help. If I can make your life easier, I'm here for it. But then in that Figma and Mac mentoring is the challenger. So pushing you outside of your comfort zone, you didn't want to switch to Mac, for example. It was just easier to default to a PC computer. You knew how to use it. You felt comfortable with all your programs. But then I'm like, there's so many benefits of Mac. Just give it a shot. And I really challenge you. You didn't love it at first. And that's a very kind of surface level example. But the challenger just pushes you outside of your comfort zone, challenges your assumptions, but holds you accountable. Like, I know you're capable of this. I'm going to push you to kind of get there and take that next step. I would say you were definitely one of those mentors for me, for sure.
Nice. Little plug for me. I'm going to give a plug for someone too. Sometimes this person, I think you don't necessarily always realize that there's like a mentor-mentee relationship there. I had worked at one time for this woman, Nichelle Evans. She's wonderful, retired now, but still a great friend. But there was a project coming out of COVID, which was ramping up acquisitions, right? And how are we going deep? How are we coming out with these super compelling offers? I've said it before, like numbers are always not the place that I'm most comfortable. And it was a lot of numbers and you had to show the growth and you had to do the P&L math. And she really said to me like, hey, I think you should lead this. I was terrified. I was terrified. I was like, there's definitely no way with all of these numbers, having to figure out if these offers are financially doable, right? Linking all the offers together. Like, there's just no way. Like, I had a tremendous amount of self-doubt, but I was like, if she believes in me, I got to fake it till I make it. To this day, I still think it's one of the best things I've ever worked on. And like, she was always somebody who I think saw me as more talented than I saw myself. And I think that this is that. This is that mentor, right? This is that person. And like for you, MD, when I was like, yes, you can absolutely do this. Let's put this together. You know, you were cracking numbers for budgets, you know, that you were running up and you're like, oh, numbers aren't my thing. But you did it. And when you were done, you gained a ton of confidence in the fact that like, okay, I could do this now.
Right, right.
That's what this challenger does.
You definitely ripped a page right out of Nichelle's playbook because that's exactly what you did to me and just like threw me in there and was just like, you can do this. You know, you got to do it this way. This is what the CMO is expecting. And I was just like, oh my God, it seemed impossible at the time. Like, how am I going to figure this out? But you were fully confident in me being able to do it. And I was just like, you must not be very smart for thinking that I can go and do this. But it all worked out in the end.
I do think there's something there that like, not necessarily holding you accountable, but almost like their faith in you that you can accomplish something almost makes you rise to the occasion. To me, those are where you get the biggest learnings. You know, you're terrified, but this person pushes you to really come out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely. One of your quotes that you always say is, if you're not scared, then it's probably not worth doing. So, you know, those are the moments really to rise to the occasion, and they're uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
But that's where the most growth is. Where do we think growing pains comes from?
That's why I spend most of my career just living in fear.
That's no way to live. I mean, maybe making me live
That's no
in
way
fear.
to live.
No, previously, I was living in fear. But then there's the sponsor. And I think as we chat through this, there's a lot of overlap. Like career navigation guidance, skill building, someone who challenges you, but also someone who advocates for you behind a closed door when they're in a room with C-suite executives or a leadership team. I definitely do that, whether it's known or not, for my team when I see the opportunity to do that, or for colleagues or people that I see that deserve that sponsorship and recognition, and try to be that advocate for them. But I think sponsorship is a huge one.
It is a huge one. And, you know, someone may not mentor you in any of the other areas. They may just be a sponsor for you. And just that voice behind the closed doors in the rooms that you're not in, where decisions get made over who leads the project, who gets the promotion, who gets the job, right? This is somebody who believes in you and cares about your career trajectory. Now, you could have, you know, your career navigator, your sponsor, and your challenger, and your skill builder. Like, you could get that all in one mentor, right? Or you could just have somebody that you have a great relationship with that's a sponsor who's just talking about you because they believe in your work. All of these types and mentors things, they can be mix and match. People can play multiple roles, but I think individually, all of them are really important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. A mentor could even be a peer. Like, it could be a colleague or someone that is at the same level as you, different department. There's always something to learn, whether someone has more experience than you or less experience than you. I've learned stuff from my teams all the time, and I want to. I want them to be teaching me stuff. I want them to learn from me, and I want to learn from them. So it's like a two-way street. But peer mentors are super important because they get it. They're kind of sitting in the same type of situations, and you can navigate things together.
Yeah, they're in the shit with you. You know,
Right.
helping you do it.
All mentors, you want to be very honest with you and like tell you where the gaps are or where things could be improved. Otherwise, what are you taking away from it?
As you choose a mentor and as you think about what you're looking for in a mentor, there's that trust piece, right? Like, I want to trust that if I'm asking you, MD, to look at my email, that I know I'm going to get honest feedback and you're not just going to say, oh, yeah, it's great, and have me fire off something that isn't great, right? So there's that level of trust that you have to have with anybody that you have this mentor give and take relationship with.
That's all you will get from me when you ask me that question. And you know that. You don't have to think twice about it. But yeah, you need to know the person, which kind of segues into how to find a mentor and how to start up some type of mentor-mentee relationship. There are programs, but from my experience, I find that the best mentor-mentee relationships, regardless of what side I'm on, happen naturally.
Yeah. So I agree. One of the things when selecting a mentor, like if you get paired up with a mentor, and I've mentored people from technology jobs to credit jobs to marketing, right? So, I've mentored a lot of folks like across different industries and roles within an organization. But I can't help them always with navigating some of the professional things if they're not in marketing. And so I have found that if I'm playing that role for somebody who isn't necessarily within marketing or looking at me for that, like it is more career, it is more situational, or it's me helping them build a marketing skill, whether it's how do you develop a product or something like that. Generally, I can't be a sponsor for those folks if I'm not in the room, right? When decisions are being made because they're not in my leadership structure. But I can shoot notes to their bosses. I can talk about how great they are. But I think it starts with one, understanding what you need from a mentor, right? Like what type of mentor are you looking for? And then looking around, honestly, and just watching people and say, like, if there was a person that either I wanted to be like, or that has this skill, this area that I'm trying to learn, like, who is that person and how do I approach them and start opening up the dialogue?
The other thing is thinking through what you may have to offer them that they might not even be coming to you with the ask for. Using you and I as an example, I had no idea you were going to get me into a presentation that I would have no idea how to do. Like, I'm going to learn, obviously, from this. I'm going to learn how to navigate and how to level up within the organization. But it ended up taking such a detour that was such a growth moment for me. And it's just like, that's what a good mentor does. Like, okay, you might need help on public speaking, but there's also opportunities to just like sell yourself one-on-one. That's not so public. Identifying those other underlying opportunities is definitely something you want to think about as a mentor.
Well, one of the things that I like to do as a mentor, though, is once I understand what you're trying to accomplish, I like to give my mentees an assignment. Right? When you're putting your time into it, like the expectation is that the mentees are putting time into it, whether it's really giving thought on long-term and short-term goals. Like if you come to me as a potential mentee and you say, I just want to get promoted, I can't necessarily help you with just getting promoted. Like, why do you think you're not getting promoted? What are the skills that need to get you from where you are today to where you'll be tomorrow? It's very, very important. You just show up and say, I just want to get promoted. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. Like, there's work that's put in that. And if you're going to take time for what is often, a pretty busy schedule on a mentor's calendar, and you're going to want that reoccurring time, like you need to be willing to put in the work for it.
Yeah.
And you need to be clear on what you need.
Yes. It's okay if you don't know necessarily what you need, like what the smaller steps are. Like your mentor could help you figure it out, but you have to at least have some type of goal to say, hey, I want to know what steps I should be taking in order to get promoted. And then you might send them away with, tell me what you've done so far. Have you been in these types of meetings? Like, give me some background context so then we can lay out a trajectory or a plan for what to do next.
Yeah, take a look at your last 3 performance reviews. What were the opportunities that your boss outlined? What work did you do in each of them to make sure they don't appear on your next review? If you see a reoccurring trend that says, Maureen needs to work on her presentation skills and I don't do anything about it, like your mentor is probably going to tell you, it shouldn't show up in 3 performance reviews. Like, You need to be taking a class. You need to find somebody who's a presenter who can help you with it, right? Like those are the things that really hold somebody back. But a mentor should be able to give that very honest, very targeted feedback, but they do need the information from the mentee to do that. When I think about more of the structured program, and I've taken part in a lot of structured mentor mentee programs, and I still have relationships with some of the folks that I got assigned to in those structured programs. But I think like my longest lasting mentor relationships have often come from either somebody I worked with that I fully respected, or if it's from just somebody that I was working with and naturally I just started asking them questions. The next thing I know, I mean, we talk about my career, they show interest in my career and things like that. Like it's definitely very, very organic.
Just making it easy to progress through how you work together, whether that means you coming to the meeting with an agenda or coming with questions and you saying like, these are the specific things I want to chat through. They can be even outside of what you set up in your initial plan. If it's instance specific, like I had that project, I was like, okay, this is not really what high level we were going to do, but like I'm in this situation now and I need your help. Making it easy. It's not just like, okay, so what's today? Like those conversations
Yes.
and those type of mentor-mentee relationships never work out.
No, and it's also okay, if you stick with a rigid cadence, like I've been where I've met with a mentor like week after week after week, right? And sometimes they show up and they didn't get to anything. Like there shouldn't be this pressure that you need to impress someone. I had this boss for a long time, Stacy Kahn, and I go to her and I don't sit and say, hey, can we have a mentor session? I'll be like, let me know when you have 5-10 minutes. I need your advice on something, right? And she is kind of that person. She'll help me navigate different things. And I find that really valuable, but it's not structured, right? We've built this relationship, but when I need her, like it's a quick approach of just, hey, I could really use your advice on this. I think any person who knows that you want help on a certain topic, even if you don't know them super well, you could say, hey, I'm struggling with, I know we keep using presentation skills. It's just so easy. I'm struggling with presentation skills. I saw your presentation. Do you mind if we spend like 15-20 minutes together and we can talk about how you prepare for presentations, right? Very few people are going to say, I absolutely don't want to help you get better or improve. I have no interest in that, right? Most people will be flattered, take the meeting, and then a relationship can go from there. I just think don't be shy. It's simple. People want to help.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say, like, there is no such thing as a bad question. The worst thing that you could possibly do is sit there with a question, make no movement, and kind of just feel stuck. So even if you think that it may be stupid or silly, or you shouldn't be asking someone at this level this type of question, like I would rather you ask me than to just sit there and do nothing. So it could be a 2-second answer for me, but just like to your point, don't be afraid to ask questions and don't be afraid to follow up. Mentors especially have very busy calendars, full inboxes, Slacks that they're 30, 50 messages behind on. And I speak for myself when I say that. So it's just like, don't be afraid to say like, just wanted to bump this up, have this meeting, would love your thoughts before I go into it. It can be really quick and easy, and not intimidating.
Don't be shy to approach them. Also know what you want out of the relationship. Like I do think people approach it as just like, oh, I need to get a mentor because they say everyone needs to get a mentor. I just want to get a mentor, check. You need to have something you want to achieve from that mentor. I can't stress that enough. Like just going in and having it be all wiggly, it's not good for you and it's not good for the person who's trying to mentor you.
And I think as a mentee...
And don't forget to say thank you for your mentor.
I was just going to say that,
Were you? Good.
Yes, great minds think alike. It's so simple. I know that it's easy to feel bad or guilty, like I'm taking up so much of this person's time who's super busy. I remember when you were mentoring me, I felt bad because you were so busy at the time. I was just like, oh, I'm taking up some of your time. Should we not be doing this? But it was so helpful, and I just kept expressing gratitude because I appreciated you investing your time in me when you didn't have to. You could have easily said, no, I'm too busy. I'm sorry. This is not a great time. It could have gone so many ways, but I think being grateful, expressing appreciation, and just saying thank you goes a long way. And share your wins.
Absolutely.
Like on the receiving end as a mentor, I always want to hear when someone has a win, whether it's big, small. There's so many opportunities where we don't celebrate the process of progress, and it's just those huge milestone moments, but there are so many little wins along the way. So definitely share those with your mentor.
Absolutely. As a mentor, there's nothing more satisfying than somebody who just says, like, you've had such an influence on me. Like, I just don't think I'd be as far along without it, you know? So I think for me, you know, anyone who's taken the time, I mean, I know I talked about Michelle, Stacy, and Joe. Those are just a couple of people who made time for me. But like, here we are, you know, years later, I still talk to all of them, but like, they took time. They made me feel like they had an interest in me and in my growth. And like, I'm still grateful for all of the lessons they've taught me. And I still go to them for advice.
That's another piece that we could touch on. You never are too senior to advance in your career to not have a mentor. I feel very lucky to still continue to have those relationships both ways, because you're always going to need advice. There's always new situation that comes up, and to have those people, you know, I'm very lucky to have a roster myself of people that are invested in me as a person, invested in my career, and want what's best for me. So I can definitely reach out when I need them, but it never ends, you know, and if you're lucky, those relationships last a really long time.
Absolutely.
On that note, Chris Malone, who will be a special guest on this podcast. He's definitely someone you, Mo, definitely thank you for always being a mentor. And then Del Chandler, me and Joseph Mazzaferro were great mentors to me and continue to be. So I'm very grateful for, you know, all of the mentors I had. I'm sure I've forgotten and haven't mentioned a ton of names because there've been so many wonderful people in my life.
I love that.
We are going to take a little bit of a summer hiatus. So this is going to be our last episode while we take a little bit of a summer break and disconnect ourselves. But that doesn't mean that you can't catch up on all of the other Clickworthy Convos episodes. You can check those out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you watch or listen. And then we will be back after Labor Day with one of our favorite people, Chris Malone, who will be joining us to talk about the value of brand, one of our favorite conversations, and how to sell it to the C-suite. It's going to be juicy, great conversation. I'm really excited about it. So make sure to tune in and catch up on any episodes you may have missed. Visit marketingperspective.com. Continue to share your thoughts, any challenges, whatever's keeping you up at night. And then like, subscribe, follow, do the thing wherever you do the thing. Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify. We will see you after Labor Day. Later.
Bye.